Okay.
Here we go. Sports Squad episode 3. Just me and Kelvin today. We are talking about divisions in sports. Do they matter? Depending on the sport, what will we change about divisions? So we'll go through as much as we can and see where the conversation leads. So to start, I guess I will say I think divisions matter in some sports, but not all. I think baseball and college football, although I'll change a little bit about college football, and the NFL could keep their divisions as is. I guess to start with baseball, just to kind of get into it, the regions are make sense.
Yeah.
And NL East is the East. It's not, it's not like when the Braves were in the NL West when they became a team. The Astros are in the AL West instead of NL Central now, but that's kind of. You get like weird situations like that, especially when in basketball too. Like just because of all the teams that have moved around and everything like that. Like the Memphis Grizzlies are in the Western Conference. Yeah. But I realized that they moved from Vancouver, but they're in the Western Conference. But they're still in an East Coast time zone. Yeah. Same thing with the Predators in hockey. The Predators are in the Western Conference. But exactly Nashville. So, so baseball, I think with baseball, the division matters more. Winning the division matters more. Yes. Because of, especially now with the second wild card game, but you're guaranteed a home field advantage during the first playoff series, and possibly longer, because if you're the wild card team, then you kind of not. Yeah. And if you're one of the lower seeds, I guess baseball doesn't really do seeding; it's all division. Yeah. But, if you win your division, that gives you more of a chance to keep home field. So I think baseball would be the one sport. I would not change the teams in the division. I would not change the names of the divisions.
Or the fact that they rely so heavily on the division as well. Yeah,
I think baseball is the one sport where divisions are good. Right. I mean, and then I think the exact opposite of basketball. Basketball makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, they're going to do the top 8 rated teams no matter what. So it's just they're going to go 1 through 8. There's no need for any kind of they clinched the division. They're going to have whomever has the best record, it just keeps on. It goes down from there. It doesn't matter if you. Yeah. I mean. It's so weird. Yeah, it's completely unnecessary. I mean, I didn't even know that the Sixers are in the division they were in until 2 years ago. Oh yeah, they're in the Southeast. Yeah, which is like them, the Magic, the Heat, the Hornets, and there's a few more and the Wizards. Wizards. So they're not in New York isn't in the same division. No. Philly. New York is in the same division as Milwaukee and Chicago though, and the Cavaliers. I'm pretty sure. So they're the Central, Eastern Conference Central Division, and which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's just no need for it. There's really no need for it, honestly. Yeah, and like you were saying with the way the playoffs are, there's really no advantage to winning the division. Yeah, because it's not there's literally none. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's not like the divisions get the top 3 or 4 spots, and then the non-division. No, it's just because they moved over. So so it used to be like that, but then they moved. I'm pretty sure it used to be like that, but then they moved it over to where so it's now the top 8 teams make it to the playoffs. So you you basically in essence eliminated the need completely for any kind of conference specific division within basketball. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have it still. I mean, it's if the team's gonna be bad, the team's gonna be bad. So they're not gonna make the playoffs. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. But they're still third. They're still second in the division, so they can still make it to the playoffs. But you have a below your record's below 500. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, Eastern Conference. Yeah, half the Eastern Conference. Yeah. So they're not getting any better either. It was. I just saw, was it today or yesterday? Markelle Fultz said the Sixers are gonna make the playoffs this year. And one of the bloggers I follow on Twitter, who's a diehard Philly fan, was like, only because it's so weak. He was like, they may make it at the 7 or 8 seed, but the Eastern Conference is so weak, that's the only reason I give them a chance.
Honestly, if we're going to talk about this, I believe the Phillies could have a home series. If
Sixers?
This is Sixers. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. I believe
like Chris Hoskins is good.
Yeah. He transcends all the game. He transcends all the Philly sports.
Yeah.
It wasn't Jake Elliott that hit the 61-yard field goal. It was Chris Hoskins.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I believe that they can.
Chris Hoskins won the Arena Bowl this year.
Yep. The Philadelphia Chris Hoskins.
Yeah, basically.
But like I said, I think the 76ers can like make it deep into the. I'm not deep into the playoffs, but I think that they could potentially be a 4 seed. They could have a home series in this upcoming NBA playoffs. Like a lot of things has to happen. Coaching has to be good. They have to be a strong team. I mean, they have to like stay healthy was the biggest thing. I mean, Embiid never stayed healthy. You've never seen what Ben Simmons can do. You don't really know what Markelle Fultz can do. But on paper, your starting five is pretty good. I mean, you got a veteran leadership kind of person with JJ Redick as well.
I forgot JJ Redick was on the
exactly.
team.
Signed a one year $23 million contract there because NBA's contracts are ridiculous. Yeah. But I mean, I think just how bad the Eastern Conference got. I mean, you're looking at it. A team in the Bulls who was the 8th seed last year. They're not making the playoffs. They're in full-on tank mode. The Knicks aren't going to come close to the playoffs. The 76ers were not 76ers. The Pacers were in the playoffs last year. They lost Paul George. They're not making.
Lost their one.
Yeah, so they lost. They're not making to the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, the Hawks could miss the playoffs again because they just traded away. Dwight Howard to the Hornets, and they also lost Paul Millsap to the Nuggets in free agency too. So that's another team that can miss the playoffs completely. So I think I know I'm completely going off what we're talking about, but I think that they have a very legitimate shot at making to the 4 seed. If, like I said, if they play up to the potential, and I know everybody hates that word potential because nobody really knows what you're gonna get. On the paper,
on the draft squad,
on paper you got 2 first overall picks, you got Embiid. You got a good roster. You got Covington. I mean, you got a decent roster.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Last year wasn't horrible.
Oh no! I mean, especially when Embiid was in there. Embiid led him to be. I mean, he can handle the ball. He can block. He can shoot the 3 ball at a decent rate for a big man.
Yeah, I was gonna say for being 7'2".
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, and he's. I mean, if he gets his knees right, if he ever stays healthy, gets knees, toes, feet, whatever's all right. I mean, I think they can be.
whatever.
They could not only be a playoff team, but I think that they can move up to be a 4 seed, 4 or 5 seed. They'll be in contention to have a home playoff series, though. I personally believe.
Kelvin with the bold prediction.
But I mean,
hopefully this gets released before the NBA playoffs.
But like I said, I mean, we have until next April,
spring,
so
yeah.
The NBA season starts in a few weeks.
Yeah, that's true. Hockey season starts soon.
So like I said, I think it'd be interesting. I mean, the whole NBA is going to be pretty interesting just because that's what's pretty big going on right now. Everybody kind of moving around to different teams.
Yeah. I saw something it was on the Herd the other day. So however you want to
take that with a grain of salt. Yeah.
It was something. Well, it was like an actual fact. It wasn't his opinion. It was something like. Well, it was his opinion on the top 25 players in the league.
Okay.
And he said top 25 and 23 of them are in the West Coast, like the Western Conference.
Yeah.
So. With
the exception of probably Kyrie Irving and LeBron James.
I'm not even sure if you counted Kyrie, but.
Honestly, I wouldn't say the top. I wouldn't say the top 25 because I think you have the emergence of a legitimate superstar with Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I think that
Greek freak.
Yeah, I think that he could be mentioned within that top 25.
Yeah.
Because the dude's 6'11", can handle the ball, and he plays point guard for the most part. He's like their starting point guard basically. And that's freakish. He's not called the Greek Freak for no reason. He's 6 foot. He's basically a legit 7-footer. They have the longest wingspan team in probably the history of the NBA.
That's an odd stat.
It's odd. I mean, you look at their starting five. Or just their entire roster. The shortest person on the team is Matthew Dellavedova.
He's not short.
Yeah. Well, not a lot of NBA players are short, except for Earl Boykins.
Yeah. Well,
Allen Iverson.
To NBA,
he's Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, Isaiah Thomas, all 5'8" of them.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The Rey Mysterio of the NBA.
But like I said, I don't believe that the top 23 the 23 to top 25 players. I think there's a few of them. I mean, I put Kevin Love in the top 25, Kyrie in the top 25. Yeah, I wouldn't put Gordon Hayward in there just yet because I mean he's still pretty much of an unknown commodity just because he played at Utah as one of the smallest market teams in the league. That's another funny thing is the Utah Jazz still being called the Jazz because they moved from New Orleans.
Yeah,
and then what they should rename it.
They've been the Utah Jazz for a while.
For a while now. It should be like the Utah.
What's his name? John Stockton played.
Yeah, John Stockton with Karl Malone. Yeah. They should be like the Utah Mormons, but I mean that's just Utah Salt Lakes or something.
Yeah, I think something other than Mormons.
But I mean, like I said, that's one of the smaller market teams that they have over there. But yeah. But like I said, it's just I don't know if I believe that and in its legitimacy that all those players on the Western Conference. It's close though. I mean, with all the people that just moved over to the Western Conference, I mean, Paul George just moved over, Carmelo Anthony just moved over, Paul Millsap moved over to the Nuggets.
Everybody's kind of going that way.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, Swaggy P is on the Warriors now, Tim.
Oh, didn't know that.
Swaggy P.
I haven't been paying attention to my Swaggy P updates.
Yeah, so it could be interesting. Like I said, that Dwayne Wade just signed with the Cavaliers. Cavaliers fans have this odd sense of hope because all Cleveland sports fans have this weird sense of hope that they can win the championship no matter what. The Browns think that they're going to win. All Browns fans think they're going to win the championship every single year.
Come on.
Serious. When they drafted Johnny Manziel, I lived in Ohio. And they're like, yeah, they're pretty stoked on winning the championship. I don't think that's gonna happen though. But live your best life. Shoot your shot.
Now all my friends from back in the days from Cleveland. He lives in Charlotte now, though, North Carolina.
Okay.
Because he went to High Point.
Yeah.
So he lives down in Charlotte, but he's still a Cleveland fan. I was texting him last year about the Indians, their World Series.
How they choked it, how they blew a 3-1 lead.
That was kind of funny. He's like, I'm so mad there's a rain delay. It's the 9th inning. They should be playing. I'm like, I want the Cubs to win.
Yeah. It was like the worst thing to have to say to somebody. Like, yeah, I know you kind of like all up in this right now, and like you're hardcore cheering for the team, but you're looking for like sympathy from me, but like.
And I like the Indians. Like they're not a team I don't like.
Right. I don't like them. I don't like any Cleveland sports team. I cheer for the Browns. Cheer for the Browns because everybody loves that lovable loser. And then when all the other sports teams go back to inevitably losing because I mean, Moneyball can only last so long.
Yeah.
And
Moneyball can only last so long because the guy who wrote Billy Beane wrote a book how to do it.
And like
you can't really blame it. He did it. Like, he was the first to do it. The movie, I never read the book, but the movie was pretty accurate from what I heard in the reviews of what he did. But literally 2 years later, he wrote the book saying what he did, and every team in baseball discovered it. And that's how the 04 Red Sox won.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to like,
you have it in your system. Like, nobody else understands.
You don't see KFC out here talking about the 11 secret herbs and spices. Now, do you?
Still don't know what's in the Chick-fil-A sauce, but it's delicious.
But
I mean, 2 different chicken places. I want to make that clear. I'm not confusing Chick-fil-A for KFC. Saying they both have their secrets.
Oh my god! What were we talking about here?
I don't know.
So divisions, right?
Yeah. So we should just go back to the top.
I think you kind of made an interesting point in our pre-show meeting.
Our pre-production meeting.
Talking about how you would keep some of just like the idea of the college football divisions and things like that.
So with college football, I was actually reading an article. I'm gonna give him a shout out. Crossing Broad on Twitter. Kyle Scott's the editor in chief. They expanded, so I forget which guy who wrote this article, but he wrote about college realignment. And he said the divisions don't really make sense, that he wants to make it more regional within the conferences and divisions. I'm not going to go into what he did because he did a lot more in depth. But I do think the rivalries in college football are so deep that you can't really change divisions.
Yeah,
like if Alabama and Auburn weren't in the SEC West anymore, that's one of the greatest rivalries in college football.
For sure.
Right, on both sides.
Same thing with
recent years.
Ohio State and Michigan, if they weren't in the same. Because, I mean, you're expecting, at the end of the day, you're expecting those two teams to kind of be, this is the last game of the season for them each. It's around Thanksgiving, so people are kind of all at home watching things like that.
Week.
And, it's like a game that it can usually determine who could go to the Big Ten championship game or something along those lines. And, so there's always some sort of further playoff bowl game implications to it. So
I would. Some of them don't make sense though because I'm not a fan of Florida State being in the ACC. Only because I feel like they could play in the SEC. And still compete.
Same thing with Clemson.
Make Florida State game. Have a little more to it.
Yeah.
Clemson in the SEC. I mean, South Carolina in the SEC.
Right, exactly.
So I would change a couple things here and there.
And that way, it would be a little bit more competitive because you look at it, especially with how weak the SEC East has been in these recent years.
As much as I love Florida winning the past 2 years,
right?
Also had 2 to 3 losses each year.
Right, exactly.
And got destroyed by Alabama each year.
So it's just not. So I think it would end up being a better game. Granted, I know a lot. If you were to move Clemson into the SEC and they'd be in the SEC East, especially with how those two teams have been looking these last few years, that could. I mean, you get basically a championship game. In the Big Ten, in the SEC championship or in the regular season or something like that. But at the same time, it could knock one of those two teams out of the playoff rankings or something like that. So,
that's why I think in college football, the only thing I hated about college football though was the LSU Alabama game, the national championship.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, there's no way 2 teams in the same division should be in the college.
And that was such a boring game too. It was the same thing as a regular season where it's field goals and then and Trent Richardson, God bless him, he got the one touchdown.
Yeah, to win it. But I remember having an argument with my brother. No offense to my brother, but he's the type who thinks he knows more than he does. Coffee problem. But yes, my brother is like that. And I was arguing with him. And he was like, "Well, they're the 2 best teams in college football. LSU beat Alabama, and that was their only loss that year. And I mean, it was 9-6.
Right, exactly.
He was like, they're the 2 best teams in football. I was like, well, what if the Phillies and the Braves played in the World Series?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
He was like, oh yeah, good point. That's basically what this is. I was like, yeah, they're not even in the SEC, in the SEC
West.
So I'm like, why is this a thing? I mean, luckily they fixed that with the college football to an extent. They fixed it, so that probably won't happen.
Right, with the playoffs,
Or if it does, it's more like they're gonna have to play more games to play each other.
Right, but the thing is, the way that I think they did kind of fix that with the playoff system, because basically you've never seen any of the any 2 teams in the same
the past 3 years
since it started up.
3 or 4 years,
because what they do is they basically get whomever is the champion of the respective division or the respective conference.
With college football conferences.
And then there's the one. Now, and then there's the one conference team that usually misses out, usually the Big 12, because they have 8 teams in the Big 12 and they don't have a Big 12 championship game, so they kind of...
I was trying to explain that to Katie. I was debating whether to use her name, but she's been on Squadcast, even though the episode hasn't been released as of this recording.
So I mean, so like,
I was trying to explain conferences the other day.
It's actually a lot to explain.
Honestly, I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Especially with all the teams that moved around. Like a lot of teams had moved out of the Big 12. I mean, just in the Big 12, they lost Nebraska, Missouri, Texas A&M, and.
Yeah, Missouri's SEC now.
Yeah, and
Nebraska's Big Ten.
Yeah, Nebraska's Big Ten, and they lost Colorado as well because Colorado's in the Pac-12 now, and they lost all those, and they only gained TCU and West Virginia, and that was a big thing when West Virginia left too because because they were ACC big.
Yeah,
I thought there was Big East actually.
I think it was the.
Because I'm pretty sure they're big.
I think it was the ACC.
Yeah. Because
we went to the Big East, and then it was like the Big East, and then like the All American Conference.
Yeah.
John was a part of.
Yeah.
And Temple was a part of.
Because that conference pretty much disbanded.
That conference just imploded.
Yeah. Because they're the American Athletic Conference.
Yeah, the AAC.
The AAC.
Yeah.
Which
the ACC was the AAC.
And then a lot of those teams just kind of got up and left. I mean, like
they saw it was like, we're just a bunch of teams that didn't move.
We're basically Conference USA. Like,
we're gonna move to an actual conference.
And they were exactly. And they were kind of just like all over the place. So yeah, I mean, and when West Virginia had left and moved over to the Big 12, that was like a big issue. Because they lost the rivalry with Pitt, and everybody loved that. It was such a great rivalry game year in and year out. I mean, they usually didn't have like any kind of big bowl game implications, but it was always just
still a huge football rivalry.
Right, exactly. Those are
bottom of the barrel, and people would still support you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's. I mean, and they kind of missed out on that. Same thing with the Texas A&M when A&M moved over to the SEC and left the Big 12. They kind of lost that rivalry too, and I feel like that kind of hinders some of the schools. It kind of handicaps them a little bit, just because I mean you're like for those rivalry games, those are huge, those are big money and things like that. So it's kind of surprising that they allowed that to leave. I mean, and like I said, even if you kept the rivalry, it's really not the same. Just because if you keep the rivalry, it's kind of you're not playing for anything other than the fact that you hate the school and these two schools hate each other. So it's just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I mean, was Texas A&M? Because I mean Texas, I feel like Texas Oklahoma is.
I mean, that's for sure. But I mean. The in-state rivalry between the two is the largest within Texas. Right, exactly. And then I'm pretty sure Texas A&M won their last year in the Big 12. I could be wrong about this.
I mean, knowing Texas the past few years.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, Jesus Christ, Texas. So everybody's kind of like, especially the Texas fans, they get mad over everything. They got mad for hiring a black coach. So.
Jeez. Come on, Texas.
So, poor Charlie Strong get no shot there. He could have won. He could have went to the championship all 3 years and lost all 3 years. And like, nah, you got to get fired.
The Jim Harbaugh effect to the 49ers.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
10-6.
Yeah. We're gonna make it to the Super Bowl and lose by one play because a questionable call because of something a pass interference may or might not have gotten called. But we don't like you. You know, you're gonna be gone. And that's a whole dumpster fire of an organization now. So,
what's his name? John Lynch.
Oh yeah.
Gonna bring him back from
he didn't he had a good draft though. I mean,
he did.
He was able to con the Bears into trading away their picks to move up a spot to draft Mitch Trubisky. Then they got what they got that they wanted, and they were able to sneak back into the first round. So I mean, he must be doing something right. So,
well, that leads to I think it was back in high school, in the NFL, the Broncos had a 3-game lead in the division with 4 games to play, and they ended up losing. I think it was Shanahan's last year or second to last year in Denver. Yeah. And so, like, I never really thought divisions in football because, like, the Patriots won, 15 or last 16
something
or whatever
like that,
it is.
except for that Matt Castle year.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, divisions don't really matter. But then thinking about it, I was like, well, maybe they do, because the past few years I've gotten more into football. I mean, I've always watched football.
Yeah.
But the past few years when I've actually, like, gotten into it, I was like, oh, okay, like, these division games in, September, October come back in near the end of the season.
Exactly.
Like, we're in week 3, so I don't want to make this sound bigger than it is, but the Eagles have 2 division wins, right?
And the Giants have 2 division losses at 3.
And they're 3.
Yeah.
So technically, it's only 2 games back. The Giants are only 2 games back.
Yeah, but then there's still a tiebreaker over. I mean,
but yeah, tiebreaker, or vice versa when the Raiders went 6-0 in the division, but they went 6-10 overall.
Yeah,
it's gonna
which sounds fat.
That's insane. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like I said, it's honestly kind of.
I think they actually went. I think they went 7-9 that
year. Yeah.
Because I think they beat the Eagles that year.
Surprise.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Andy Reid's second to last year.
But I mean, like I said, with the NFL, I feel like the divisions do make sense. I mean, regionally they make sense.
Yeah,
except for the Cowboys in the East, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
But I feel like that's the one out.
But that's the only place that they could. I mean, maybe the South.
Maybe, but who would you?
But who would you move from the South? Because all those are Southern
Panthers,
teams. Yeah.
Maybe the Panthers.
Yeah.
Just because they're the furthest east, You have the Bucks and the Saints and the. Who else? Who else is in the NFC South?
The Falcons, yeah.
So if anything,
you
would switch with the Panthers, but it's not that big of
a deal. Yeah, and they're not, and the Cowboys aren't west enough to be in the West,
Yeah,
so
kind of right on that line.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Well, okay, the Texans don't really make sense being in the AFC, or the Colts and being in the AFC South because they're Indianapolis.
Oh yeah, because
that one kind of threw me off guard too. I was like. How did this happen? But I guess maybe Baltimore was still. Maybe it was from the Baltimore days.
Yeah, and they probably just needed to throw a team in there because I mean.
Yeah, because even out sometimes.
Yeah, especially because I mean the Texans are like the newest team. Most recent team. So this kind of through, especially I mean the 2 more recent teams are the Texans and the Jaguars, which are both in the South with them too. I mean, and. The Tennessee moved from Houston, from the former Oilers too. So maybe that makes sense. Just kind of threw them all together. They're kind of like the island of misfit toys, kind of.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're act actors.
Right. Yeah. So I guess that kind of makes sense, but I mean that's as far as I can think of. But I mean, with the NFL, I definitely understand its divisions kind of do make sense. So that. I can get with that, especially when it comes to the playoffs and things like that, and just having division and the division rivals are very good within within the NFL too. I mean, the Steelers Ravens are always a go-to game.
That goes usually.
I usually feel like a lot of there's pretty decent malice towards every single team in the NFC East as well, where they all kind of hate each other.
That's the one to compare it to baseball's East, the NL East, I was like, okay, you got the Nationals and everybody else.
Yeah.
Nobody really competes with anybody else.
Right.
There's no, heated rivalry.
So, I like it.
But, in the NFC East, literally every game that's played among those teams.
Yeah, it's always a tight game. They're always it's always not a, it's a very gritty, very chippy game and things like that. When you go to the AFC East, it's the complete opposite because it's been the competition's been so beyond weak for such a long time that, I mean, you can't, the Patriots have been way up top and then everybody else, this can't really be a rivalry because they're gonna destroy us every single week, so that kind of differs.
Besides 08 or 09, whatever.
Then you have the old school rivalries with between Packers and the Bears.
Packers, Bears, yeah.
Which is always going back for a while now. And so I mean, they those games are usually pretty good.
The Rams 49ers has been tight
the
past few years.
And on top of that, they mean a lot too. Yeah. So I mean, that's why I kind of enjoy the competition with those divisional games because they're playing for a lot more. It's not just you're playing against an AFC team if you're in the NFC or something like that where you're going to see them once every 4 years.
Right, yeah. You're going to see them twice a year.
Yeah, exactly.
The foreseeable future.
Right, exactly. I mean, maybe sometimes 3 times a year if you play them in the playoffs, too. So, I mean...
division playoff games are the best.
Yeah. And they're like... And they're kind of like slugfest type games, too, because, I mean, they've seen each other enough throughout the seasons and seen each other enough throughout that individual season that they just kind of just, like... It's kind of just like a knock you down, just kind of very gritty, very tough game. So it's a very enjoyable playoff game too. I mean, you know it's going to be cold for the most part, unless you're just in a better area of the country than us here. But you get like a Steelers Ravens playoff game. That's good. I mean, you might as well just chalk that up as an instant classic. So.
Yeah, every year they've had it.
And I feel like the NFL does a good job in recognizing when what those divisional games are going to be like, and like trying to do a good job of putting them in prime time slots or putting them in slots. Like last year, the Ravens Steelers game came late in the season on Christmas Day, and it was like pretty much to see who would get a playoff spot. And it went down to the wire like it usually does, and that Steelers end up making it to the playoffs, and they call it the immaculate extension, because like he was like stopped at the one. He's like, I'm pretty sure it was Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell just like reached over the goal line. Yeah, because last year they had Martavius Bryant. So yeah, that was their offense. That was a very, very good, very intense game. And then you have those random rivalries that go back because they've had classic games in the past, like you had the Cowboys and the Packers because of the Ice Bowl and things like that too. So so things like that kind of
rooted. Yeah, the Eagles Giants have both Miracle at the Meadowlands and now
right.
And just Jake Elliott. I don't even know if there's a name for this game.
Jake Elliott. And when you have rivalry games like that, I think that's the lone exception when you can say rivalry renewed, because like they don't play each other as often as when they play in the division or something like that.
So sometimes like the Patriots and Colts, between
Brady and Manning, that was a
rivalry. Brady Manning. It wasn't even Patriots Colts.
Yeah,
it was Brady Manning. Now it's just like, okay, Manning, Brady's playing luck and he destroyed them.
And then deflated his balls or whatever.
But still won by 40.
So
what was the final score? Like 44-7?
Yeah, I know they beat them. Like they stole something. They beat them pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's fun to see those kind of rivalry renewed moments. I know you kind of cringe whenever you hear that.
Well, I hate it when it's not used properly.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
It's not like I hate that phrase.
It's not like rivalry renewed Alabama Auburn. They play each other every year. They expected. It's not like they're like looking at the calendar like, oh man, we don't have Auburn this year.
Yeah. Like the Big Ten, how Iowa doesn't always play. Like last year they didn't play like Michigan or.
They played Michigan, yeah.
Last year they did.
They didn't play Ohio State or Penn State.
Penn State, yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I think maybe one other team. But they played North Dakota State.
Yeah, lost.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's stuff like that. Like in college, it's so big that sometimes you don't play.
Right.
But like the one they always did it with the Yankees Red Sox. They make it Sunday Night Baseball, and I was just like,
yeah, I
mean, they play each other 20 times a year.
Exactly.
It's not renewing a rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a 3 or 4 game series. They're going to play multiple because they're in the same division, so they're going to be playing each other often. Like it just doesn't make
like that's how baseball schedule works.
Yeah, exactly. For that exception, I just does. I mean, and I feel like and that's the reason why it's very tough to get rivalries in baseball, just because they play each other so much that it's not really a rivalry. It's just like part of the schedule. Like they play 100, and it's not as intense because in football it's a lot more intense because you're only like there's a lot more on the line. You're only playing you're playing a small amount of games. So it's
only play them twice and you play them once at home.
Yeah,
you're only gonna get that one chance a season.
Right, exactly. So when in baseball it's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit difficult to like really push rivalries in today's era. Yeah. I mean, they're hanging on to a rivalry regarding Babe Ruth over like damn near 100 years ago. So like it doesn't. It was 1918. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, So
well, it didn't make a lot of sense since 2004.
Exactly.
Once 2004 happened, I feel like that rivalry died down significantly.
Yeah.
it became more of a present day because they were both in the wild card / division.
Yeah.
Right. So until the Blue Jays came around the past few years.
Yeah.
They got eliminated this year.
And they fell back. Back to earth.
Yeah, but they kind of end the Orioles that entire division.
Yeah. So like I said,
5 years that entire.
And it's really like I said, and there's no real, and you have rivalries, and it's different within all different sports too, because you look at basketball. Basketball has the different rivalries. There's not specifically rivalries within divisions. You have rivalries amongst teams that will see each other a lot in the playoffs or see a lot of each other over history. I mean, they ESPN 30 for 30 made a 3-part series on the rivalry between the Lakers and the Celtics.
Yeah.
So I mean,
literally opposite sides of the country.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's likely gonna be one about about the Cavaliers and the Warriors because they're looking like they're gonna go to the finals for 4 straight years.
Yeah, for real.
So I mean, so like that. So those are rivalries in and of itself, in basketball.
Well, basketball, I think that's more because the playoff series are so long.
Yes,
you play 7 games.
It's a long, grueling kind of exactly.
So. And
same thing kind of with hockey too. I mean, you have the Capitals and Pens that are usually kind of a big rivalry.
Trying to meet each other.
Exactly.
The Flyers and Rangers always tend to meet each other.
I think the NHL does a great job in promoting their rivalries too, and putting they don't get a lot of games that are on the prime time slots and things like that with NBC, but I mean that's usually one of them. Exactly. But they get that.
They usually get like Flyers Caps or Flyers Penguins. Or Caps Penguins.
Something
the Blackhawks Blues is a huge rivalry.
Something that's going to bring a lot of attention to their game, you know.
The Winter Classic is usually a good game.
Exactly, because you don't know a lot of the players, but you'll know some of the players in those big games. You'd be like, oh yeah, I have a rooting interest, and I'm legitimately interested in watching this game. So I think that the NHL does a very good job of promoting their rivalries when it comes, and that's not necessary. I don't know that much about the divisions in baseball or in hockey. I don't have Ryan,
we don't have Barry Miller.
Our hockey specialist here. So
it's a shame. He really wanted to do this too, but his work schedule and our work schedules.
But I mean, we can. I mean,
this is why we need Ryan.
Yeah. But I mean, so those are like always good rivalries to kind of see and enjoy and see each team that's kind of different too. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting. But I mean, like I said, I don't to go back to hammer on to the initial point. I don't really think that divisions are quite necessary within all sports. You could probably,
even scheduling wise, I think that would be probably the biggest problem if we were just to say, hey, divisions don't exist anymore. How do you schedule?
Yeah.
And I think that's really the only thing keeping divisions in basketball and hockey alive. Because hockey just had the realignment 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and they went from. I think they had 6 conferences and they went down to 4, and teams like the Red Wings switched. They went from the west to the east, you know, and all this stuff. So it's kind of like, all right, well, if you could do that, why do you still need divisions? It's kind of
right.
There could be a different way to schedule. I don't know how, because scheduling.
Yeah.
I know a little bit of how football scheduling works, and I know baseball. I think every team tries to play every other team. But you also need a certain amount of division games in baseball season.
Yeah, and there's a certain amount of interconference play as well. There's not really a lot of that. So you'll see you'll very rarely see it seem like the O's going against the Pirates, even though that's kind of close proximity.
Yeah,
I know they're playing a series this weekend, or this week or tonight.
Yeah, the Phillies played the Mariners this year. And the A's came to town too, so that was kind of a made-up rivalry.
Especially over here, in the East Coast, and they're playing interleague play over on the West Coast. You have the Orioles playing
10:00 games.
Yeah, 10:00 games against the Giants or something like that, and that makes no sense. Or the Dodgers, it makes no sense really.
Yeah, so I feel like if you could do maybe conferences but not divisions, you could still keep scheduling somewhat the way it is. Like I said, besides baseball and football, because those are 2 I wouldn't touch. But college football, in the conferences, just have. College football, we can spend an entire sports class.
Oh, for sure.
Fixing college football. But one of the ideas that's run through my head a few times is just every team in the conference plays every other team, and maybe 2 or 3 are out of conference, but it's still against a major conference, like SEC, Big 12 or Pac-12.
Yeah, but at the same time, that can be tough because there are still independents. if you do that, who does Notre Dame play? You know, like
who cares about Notre Dame? Come on, people praised about something they played.
Who does Army play?
Yeah,
Navy and the Air Force.
They just played military. Get the Coast Guard out here. Yeah, but yeah, I know there's some independent, but that might just be a.
They just pick a conference. There's not a lot of them, so just pick a conference. Honestly,
yeah.
Because I think there's only like 2 or 3. I'm fairly certain that BYU is still an independent as well. I'm pretty sure.
Not Mountain West.
I don't know. I could be wrong. They could be Mountain West, but I'm not quite sure.
If I can find my mouse. There it is. Found it. Alright. BYU conference football. And independent schools. Yep, Division I FBS independent schools.
Yeah,
Utah.
Wait, no, they're in the Pac-12.
Let me click the link to the school. 4 remaining independent FBS schools are Army, BYU, Massachusetts, and Notre Dame, according to Wikipedia. So UMass is apparently.
I don't know. They might have.
I don't know how recent. It's also Wikipedia.
They just moved up. Well, because UMass just moved up from the FBS level or the FCS from 1AA a few years ago, and last time I saw that they were in the MAC, but it didn't make a lot of sense for them to be in the MAC because the MAC is Midwest schools, so they're all pretty much centered in Ohio, Michigan, and in Illinois. So it didn't make a lot of sense. I know in basketball they're like the A10 UMass is.
Well, that's a thing too. I mean, with college, it doesn't make, like Villanova is.
The Big East.
Big East.
Yeah.
In football, or basketball,
in basketball.
FCS, they're Division II.
Yeah.
In football, I was like, if you're a conference, you should be a conference. Like it's.
But at the same time, like it's tough. Gonna bring up lacrosse here for a second, but like Johns Hopkins is D3 and everything else, and then lacrosse they're in the Big Ten. Because
the Big Ten.
Yeah,
didn't know that.
I
don't know much about lacrosse.
They just formed the Big Ten in lacrosse not too long ago because they had enough for the schools. Like Ohio State started a program not too long ago. Michigan's just started a program a few years ago. Penn State has a pretty legitimate program they just started not too long ago. You already had Maryland who was in the ACC and moved over to the Big Ten. So that makes sense.
Maryland is such an odd scenario because in basketball and now lacrosse it makes sense. But in football they get destroyed.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, well, when you have most of your teams doing well.
Right, I mean, women's basketball they do well, men's basketball they do well.
Both basketball.
Lacrosse.
Did they make the Elite 8 or Final 4 last year?
Probably Elite 8. I don't think they made the Final 4.
Yeah. I knew they didn't make the championship because my own coworker was pretty mad.
Yeah, Mississippi State and somebody made it. All I remember is Mississippi State upsetting UConn.
Yeah. All right, UConn.
South Carolina. South Carolina won the championship.
Okay. Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, Maryland doesn't make a whole lot of sense about being in the Big Ten for football. I mean, because they just were so far behind. I mean, if anything, they just helped everybody else out in the Big Ten.
Yeah, right. Like,
just like, oh yeah, you gave us a pipeline to Maryland because like what a lot of schools look at now is like you get a chance to go back to that kid's like home state is where like you played your high school ball here, all your friends are there and things like that. We want you to go over here, play at Ohio State. We know you don't know anybody out in Ohio State, but once every couple of years you could come back to the state of Maryland and you could play in front of all your families and friends. And so that's why conference realignment has kind of been detrimental to certain teams like Nebraska. Look at Nebraska, because they used to be able to just come in and come into Texas and just like pick recruits up out of state of Texas because like you're gonna come back. You're in the Big 12. You're gonna come back. You're gonna play some teams inside here. You're gonna play Texas Tech. You're gonna play Texas A&M. Texas. So and then they moved out and they're like they're in Nebraska. You're not. I mean, there's not a lot of big recruits you're getting out of state of Nebraska.
you could see the College World Series.
Yeah, exactly.
States,
right, exactly. So that's kind of
within the same place.
That's kind of where they because they're kind of way far off. They're in the Big Ten, which doesn't make a lot of sense for them to be in the Big Ten. They're like a Midwestern school, but
I was gonna say that's why I think that to go back to that one article I was reading, that it kind of makes sense to keep divisions / conferences regional.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that's the biggest thing that you could do.
Yeah,
because it's like Florida State in the ACC is, it's the entire coast.
Yeah,
and all the schools in the ACC. I shouldn't call out Florida State. But all the schools are just SEC is still relatively close in Big 12.
Like I said, I mean, you have teams. You have teams.
Some conferences spread out the entire state or coastline.
Yeah, I mean, you could just the state of Florida. Like you have so many big time schools in the state of Florida. I mean, you have Florida State, Florida, and Miami that are both in the ACC.
Right,
they could both easily be in the SEC. They have a pipeline to a lot of SEC schools. They have rivalries that they have going on with Florida. Florida State and Miami both have rivalry with Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, you have South Florida's kind of on the rise. They got Charlie Strong over there, and they're I'm pretty sure they're in the American Athletic Conference.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure they're in the AAC.
They just beat Temple this weekend.
Yeah, so that's and that one that American Athletic Conference is all over the place too.
Yeah.
I mean that has
like I said, it was the ACC that just got blown up.
That has like South Florida, Central Florida. Yeah. They have I'm pretty sure they have Memphis.
Memphis is in there.
They have Temple. Navy, Temple.
Yeah.
Like East Carolina. They're really all over the place.
Yeah, East Carolina, home of Chris Johnson. That's the only person I know that came out of East Carolina.
Zay Jones, starting wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills, all-time leading receiver, punt returner / kick returner for the Giants. Dwayne Harris is also from Eastern Carolina.
Dwayne Harris. Yeah, but that conference is.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that used to be with the Big East, and then they lost a lot of their schools because the Big East kind of.
And the Big East was also what I hated, and I'm so glad they fixed before the college football system was they were an automatic qualifier. And I remember one year, I think it was Pitt, when they only had like 7 or 8 wins, but since they won the conference, they were like, "Oh, you're automatically one of the big bowls,"
right?
Because it's the Big East versus this conference.
Yeah.
I forget what conference they played. I was like, that's so stupid. How did anybody approve that rule? Like,
yeah, there's a lot of problems with the BCS. Honestly, it just didn't make any sense. I'm glad they moved it over. But like I said, we can do a whole 2-hour long episode. With
just college football, we could go on for days.
So.
Sports Squad marathon.
Yeah.
Like when they do the fantasy marathon on
the 28 hours.
Yeah. Just us talking college football.
That would be
or
probably
like when iCarly did their episode. Yeah, throwing in iCarly in here. There was actually at work, this was last school year, one of my coworkers is Carly. And her best friend is Sam, so she always tells the kids that. She's like, "You'll never guess what my best friend's name is." And then I said something about I said I think I said Cat because Victorious.
Oh yeah, and then Cat and Sam had their own spinoff show.
So that. And one of the kids was like, "You watch iCarly and Victorious?" I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Okay, I see you, Mr. Tim."
Jesus Christ. Oh Lord.
Alright,
I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah, we might have to end there. We're at 48 minutes. We're good. Any closing thoughts, or we just gonna awkward outro as always?
Awkward outro. Like I said, we talked about a good amount of things. Obviously,
we did.
I mean,
we covered,
just
we covered
a lot of different sports.
We covered
the playoff chances of the 76ers.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So I think we covered the major sports. We got lacrosse. I'm sorry, I'm LS, but I don't know anything about you.
Not a single thing.
I really don't know how anything works in the MLS besides the Galaxy and the Soul, and not even the Soul, the Union.
Got the Columbus Crew, the DC United.
Yeah, DC United. I think last year was 2
Portland Timbers, right? I want to say.
Yeah.
Portland Timbers?
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's...
I think it was Vancouver versus Toronto last year in the MLS Cup.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Toronto actually has, players. They have like Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore over there.
They both play for Toronto.
Yeah.
See, soccer throws me off though, because sometimes they're playing for like I'll see Alex Morgan tweet about like she's playing for. I think she plays for Seattle for the women's MLS.
Oh, I have no idea.
But then the USA will have an exhibition game, and then there's like an international on Netflix.
Yeah, it's like there's too many leagues. There's too much.
Yeah,
it's like soccer's like.
What are you guys playing for?
Soccer never ends. Yeah. People like oh La Liga's going on. I'm like, what the fuck is La Liga?
Yeah. There's La Liga, there's Premier League, there's...
So I tried to play FIFA one time. Like, I tried to get FIFA and I started playing it. I'm like...
I just played it.
Wow, I have no idea what's going on in this game. Like, I don't know any of these players' names. I don't know any of these teams' names. I don't know what league this is.
Yeah, you get, like, the German league and you get the... I'm pretty sure there's, like, an Irish league.
Yeah, like a Euro league. Yeah, like
Euro.
The Spanish league. Or that's too much.
Yeah, it's
all I know is like
it's similar in NHL video game. You know, when you have like the NHL and then the AHL and then the KHL, but then you have like the UCL or whatever.
Right.
And the UCL. I don't even know if that's. I know that's a ligament, but I'm getting old, Cuff. I'm just saying stuff. Your filter weakens the older you get.
No, for sure, for sure.
And then you have the super minor leagues. You have the minor league KHL, and
that's too much.
I would play with the Legends team. I think it was NHL 12 or 13, whatever the last one I got. I would play with the Legends team, so like Gretzky and Lemieux and all them, and then I would play like the weakest Russian team there was just to see how bad I could feel. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. UCL. Okay, that is Sports Squad, episode 3. Yeah, well, we've got a routine down, so we'll be recording more in the future. If you guys ever want to get on to all our listeners out there.
Assuming we ever get this posted.
Assuming it gets out, yeah. I have sent it to the technical producer. I've also looked at the software myself, but it's expensive, so soon. Alright, Sports Squad out.